Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video we will discuss controls in Worms W.M.D. You will learn how to move and jump with the worm, how the camera works, how to select and use weapons, different controls for different weapons, controls relevant to vehicles and turrets, a small tweak with the map itself, and last but not least, how to use chat and voice chat. Even though this video is made for beginners, stick around because there are some things that might be relevant for more experienced players. And no, undergrow, I'm not talking to you and your kind. Without further ado, let's begin. Before we jump into the gameplay mechanics, we will briefly focus on control settings. And there are two of them, modern and classic. They are basically the same, with the only difference being in movement controls. While modern settings use A, W, S and D keys, the classic settings swap those keys for the arrow keys, while everything else remains the same. Which one should you use? Probably the classic settings. Most people who play the older Worms games are already familiar with these settings, and there is less chance of accidentally pressing the wrong button while moving or roping, but in the end it is all a matter of habit. Look at me, for example. I'm playing Worms on a PC with a PlayStation joystick. Speaking of joysticks, while I will focus on PC controls in this video, I will also mention all joystick counterparts as we progress through different topics. Moving Worms is such a basic thing, and knowing all kinds of jumps will help you save time while navigating the map. First and foremost, press and hold the left or right arrow key to move your worm in the desired direction. Press enter to perform a forward jump, and press enter twice to jump up. The important thing to note is that you don't have to start moving before jumping. On the contrary, it is always better to hold the direction arrow keys before performing a certain type of jump. For example, you can press and hold the direction arrow key while jumping forward to determine the strength of the jump. On the other hand, you can press and hold the opposite direction arrow key to shorten the jump. Remember that you can adjust it while in the air by pressing, holding or releasing the direction arrow key whenever you want to get at the specific strength of the jump. These are called short and long jumps. The same rules can be applied for jumping up. For example, if you press enter twice while holding a direction arrow key, you will jump up in the desired direction as well. This is called a flip jump. It is very useful for reaching higher parts of the terrain or navigating through a building or a fort. Just like with the forward jump, you can press, hold and release the direction arrow keys as needed to get the necessary jump for reaching a certain part of the map. If you perform it in the same direction your worm is facing, it is a front flip jump, and if you perform it in the opposite direction, it is a back flip jump. Before we wrap up this chapter, we should mention the back flip jump using the backspace key. Pressing it once and your worm will always perform it in the opposite direction of where it was looking. It is essentially a shortcut key for the already mentioned jump, and there is no dedicated button on the joysticks for this movement. Mastering all these movements and jumps will help you reach higher parts of the map, make more precise landings on small parts of the terrain, and save time for the rest of your turn. The game camera will track both the action and the movements of the worms, but you can take control of it yourself at any time and move it with the mouse as you please. This is done with the right analog stick on a joystick. You can use the mouse wheel to zoom in for a closer look and zoom out to see more of the landscape. If for any reason the camera wanders away, you can always press the mouse wheel button to center it on the worm currently in play. Zooming in and out is done with R2 and L2 buttons on the joystick, and centering the camera on a worm playing is done by pressing R3. Alternatively, you can press Ctrl key on a keyboard to zoom in as close as possible and press it again to zoom out as much as possible. Worm information shows the name, health and team color above the head of each worm. Sometimes, no matter how much you zoom in, this information can get in the way of your aim. Luckily, you can toggle it until it disappears by pressing the N key on the keyboard or the L1 button on the joystick. Once you are done shooting, press the button again to make the worm information reappear. Selecting a weapon is a straightforward process, and there are two ways of doing it, a basic and an advanced one. Right-click the mouse button to open the wheel panel, move the mouse cursor over the weapon you want to select, and click on it. If you are using a joystick, press the circle button to open the weapon panel. Use the arrow keys to select the weapon and press X to confirm your choice. Doing so automatically closes the weapon panel and equips the weapon. You can also craft or dismantle a weapon in the weapon panel. This is done by opening the weapon panel and clicking on the crafting tab. If you're using a joystick, press R1 button to switch to the crafting panel from the weapon panel. Alternatively, you can press the right shift key on a keyboard to open the weapon panel, and press Y or X keys to quickly switch between weapon and crafting panels. Click on the weapon type you want to craft, then click on the variant of the weapon you want to create to start the process. If you are playing with a joystick, use the arrow keys to navigate to the weapons and press the X button to select weapons and their variants for crafting. Crafting is a topic for another video, so if you want to learn all about it, check the video in the description called How to Craft Weapons in Worms W.M.D. As I mentioned at the beginning of this chapter, there is also an advanced way to select weapons, but unfortunately, it is only relevant to PC players, for example, those who play with a mouse and keyboard. To select a weapon, you can use the function keys from F1 to F8. Each function key represents a row in your weapon panel. For example, if you press F3 once, you will select Fire Punch, and if you press it twice, you will select the baseball bat. However, if the baseball bat is not available, it will be skipped, and in that case, pressing F3 twice will select Prod, which is the next available item in that row of your arsenal. Using the function keys to select weapons is definitely a better way and can save you time, especially in situations where you have to cover a lot of distance. You can also do some tricks that are simply not possible with a joystick, but these situations are rare and do not significantly determine the outcome of a match. And last but not least, by using the function keys, you can save time while equipping secondary weapons and tools. For example, you can start moving with the ninja rope and equip the parachute as a secondary tool without having to slow down your movement. If you are, like me, using a joystick to play Worms, just plan your turns a bit better and hope you won't need an extra second to select or use a weapon. While most weapons require similar controls, some require extra button presses to maximize their effectiveness. All weapons can be sorted into categories, and we will go through each one, explaining the specific controls for that group of weapons. Projectile weapons, such as the bazooka or homing missile, are affected by the gravity, and some are also affected by wind and electromagnets. Use the arrow keys to aim. Once aimed, hold down the fire button to charge up the power of the shot, and release to fire. The fire button is the space key on a keyboard, and the square button on a joystick. In the case of the homing missile, first, use the arrow keys to select the target and press the fire button to confirm it. The rest is as I have already described. Melee weapons, such as Fire Punch, Baseball Bat and Prod, are simple to use. Make sure to stand as close as possible to the enemy worm and just press the fire button. Some melee weapons, such as the Baseball Bat, can be aimed using the arrow keys, and some, such as Fire Punch, can destroy a bit of the terrain. To use strike weapons, such as the Airstrike, Bunker Buster or W1 rocket, use the arrow keys to move the target to the desired location and press the fire button to call in the strike. You can cancel the strike at any point before calling it by opening the weapon panel. Strike weapons are affected by electromagnets, and some of them require an additional button to press to make the most out of them. For example, to change the direction of the airstrike, press the tab key on the keyboard. And to set the number of turns before the W1 rocket strikes, press the number key from 1 to 5 on the keyboard. Both of these actions are performed by pressing the same button multiple times on the joystick, which is R1. To use firearm weapons, such as the shotgun and Uzi, you will use the arrow keys to aim, and once aimed, use the fire button to shoot. These weapons are not affected by gravity, wind or electromagnets. You can adjust your aim when firing the Uzi, and you can take 2 shots per turn with the shotgun, moving and adjusting your aim between shots. Tools are quite unique, and some of them require additional buttons to use. We will cover the drone, Worm Select, Girder, Electromagnet and Blowtorch. I purposely didn't mention the ninja rope, jetpack, parachute and teleport, because these tools will be covered in the next chapter. Fire the drone like a bazooka. When you want to activate it, press any arrow key. Use the arrow keys to move it around the map. Once the time expires, it will be deactivated automatically and thrown into the water. However, you can deactivate it manually by pressing the fire button once you are done using it, to save time for the rest of your turn. Choose Worm Select by clicking on it or pressing the X button. Press the fire button to activate it, then press the tab or R1 button multiple times until you select the desired worm. Just start moving with it to finish using Worm Select and continue your turn as planned. Once you select the girder, move it with the arrow keys to the desired part of the terrain. Use the comma and dot keys on the keyboard or R1 on the joystick to change its size and angle. Once you are satisfied with the size and angle, press the fire button to place it and finish your turn. Electromagnets can be placed by pressing the fire button. However, before you do, you should determine whether the electromagnet will repel or attract by pressing the tab key on the keyboard or the R1 button on the joystick. Keep in mind that a steep slope can cause the electromagnet to move downwards a bit once your worms places it. The blowtorch can dig a small tunnel, and this useful tool can be employed in many cases. Once you select it, use the arrow keys to aim and press the fire button to start digging. You can change the direction while digging using the arrow keys, and you can stop digging whenever you want by pressing the fire button again. You can dig in all directions except upwards. Throwable weapons, such as the grenade, charged battery, or unwanted present, are affected by gravity. Some are affected by electromagnets, and some have fuse timers. We will take a closer look at the grenade because it checks all these boxes. Select the weapon and use the arrow keys to aim. Once aimed, hold down the fire button to charge up the power of the throw and release to throw. Before you throw a grenade, alter the fuse time from 1 to 6 seconds by pressing the corresponding number keys on the keyboard or pressing R1 multiple times on the joystick. Alternatively, you can use tab or Q keys on the keyboard to toggle between the numbers. Once the time expires, the grenade will explode. If a throwable weapon doesn't have a fuse timer, it will explode once it stops moving. In the case of the unwanted present, you will press the number key from 1 to 6 on the keyboard or press the R1 button multiple times on a joystick to determine the number of turns before the weapon explodes. Placeable weapons, such as the mine, dynamite or sentry gun, are simple to use. All you have to do is select it, move as close as possible to the enemy worm, press the fire button to place it, and use the retreat time to move your worm out of the explosion radius. The mine is affected by electromagnets, and the sentry gun will stay active until destroyed. Releasable weapons, such as the sheep on a rope, or old lady, are also simple to use. Select it, press the fire button to release it from a distance, and detonate it by pressing the fire button again once it gets close to the enemy worm. None of these weapons are affected by the electromagnets, and sheep on a rope requires roping skills, but more on this in the next chapter. Knowing how weapons work and how to use them is important, and you can see all of them in action on the playlist called How to Use All Weapons. I will add a link down in the description. If you want to learn advanced tips, tricks and clever tactics, check out the playlist called Tips, Tricks and Tactics. I will also add a link down in the description. Tools are an important part of every arsenal, and in most schemes you will have some of them by default. They can often help you reach certain parts of the map that are otherwise inaccessible through normal walking and jumping. These tools include the parachute, jetpack, teleport, party balloon and ninja rope. Let's start with the parachute. It is a cheap tool to craft, and it is included in every default scheme. Once you select the parachute, you can move and jump freely, and it will activate automatically once you reach full damage speed. You can also activate it manually at the highest point of the jump by pressing the fire button. The parachute is heavily affected by the wind, so pay attention to the strength and the direction of the arrow keys in the bottom left corner, as the wind changes randomly at the beginning of every turn. Use the arrow keys to steer your worm while using the parachute, and don't forget that you can use 2 arrow keys at the same time to optimize your movement. For example, press and hold a direction arrow key and the up arrow key to simultaneously move in the desired direction with minimal descent. On the other hand, press and hold a direction arrow key and the down arrow key simultaneously to move in the desired direction with the maximum descent. Just like with the ninja rope or jetpack, you can equip and throw weapons while gliding with the parachute. To equip a weapon as a secondary tool, use the function keys or open the weapon panel and select it. Once equipped, use the jump button to throw or fire a weapon, which is enter key on the keyboard and X on the joystick. If you don't want to use the parachute anymore, you can always press the fire button to cancel it. This can save you time if your worm is close to the ground. The jetpack is the easiest tool to use for moving around the map, which is why it's also expensive to craft. But in most schemes you will have at least one in your arsenal. Once you equip it, press the fire button to activate it, and use the arrow keys to move around the map. Jetpack has a fuel limit, and the more you press the direction arrow keys, the more fuel you consume. For this reason, you should never use more than one direction arrow key at a time, and you should avoid pressing and holding it. Instead, tap it to save fuel, and cover the maximum distance. Once you gain momentum, you can move in a certain direction and just tap the up arrow key to maintain speed and altitude. If you are descending, don't tap any keys and let the gravity do the work for you. The jetpack is slightly affected by the wind, but it is not noticeable. Like the Ninja Rope and parachute, you can equip another weapon as a secondary to shoot, place or throw while using the jetpack. This is done in the same way as explained with the parachute. One important thing to note is the fuel after you use a secondary tool. It becomes unlimited during the retreat time. In this case, feel free to press and hold the direction arrow keys to move your worm to a safer location as fast as possible. Teleport is a basic tool that doesn't do much. As the name suggests, it teleports your worm from one location to another and ends your turn once used. Once you select it, use the arrow keys to choose the location where you want to teleport your worm. When satisfied with the location, press the fire button to teleport. You can teleport a worm onto a dropped crate to pick it up, but avoid doing this if it leaves your worm exposed to easy attacks. Teleport is mostly used to reach higher parts of the terrain or to move your worm away from an enemy sentry gun. You can even attack with the teleport, but this requires a specific situation. If you want to learn more, check out the playlist in the description called Tips, Tricks and Tactics. The party balloon is an interesting tool, but it's too expensive to craft, and you won't have it in most games. However, if you want to use it, here's what you need to know. Once you select it, press the fire button to activate it and use the direction arrow keys to navigate. Like the parachute, it is heavily affected by the wind, but unlike the parachute, the party balloon always ascends. Press and hold the direction arrow key to choose the direction, and press and hold the up or down arrow key simultaneously to control the speed of ascent. You can equip other weapons and tools as secondaries and use them just like we described in the parachute. While you can always craft a jetpack instead of a party balloon, there are certain situations where the party balloon might be a better option. To learn more, find the video about the party balloon in the playlist called Tips, Tricks and Tactics. The link is in the description. Ninja Rope is the hardest tool to master, but it is the most useful one. Due to its complexity, it deserves a separate video to cover all of its abilities. I've already made a video about it called Everything You Need to Know About Ninja Rope, and you can find the link in the description, so I don't have to repeat myself here. Here is a quick look at all the weapons you can throw while gliding with the parachute, moving with the Ninja Rope or flying with the jetpack. Vehicles and turrets provide a unique experience in Worms W.M.D, adding an additional layer of complexity to strategies and tactics during every match. There are 5 vehicles and 5 turrets, including the tank, helicopter, mech, drill boat, rocket league car, flamethrower, machine gun, mortar, sniper, and dubstep gun. To enter or exit a vehicle, position your worm next to it and press the E key on the keyboard or triangle on the joystick. Once you are in a vehicle, use the direction arrow keys to navigate around the map and aim. To make things clearer, we'll cover each vehicle separately, as many of them have unique abilities. Let's start with the tank. Use the left and right arrow keys to move it in a certain direction, and the up and down arrow keys to aim. You can press the jump button to jump, and double press it for a double or long jump. Always press and hold the direction arrow keys while jumping to keep moving in the desired direction, otherwise you will just go up and down. Once you've aimed, press the fire button to shoot. The tank will fire 6 shots in bursts of 2. You can adjust your aim while shooting, and you can press the fire button at any point to stop the rest of the shots from being fired. This is useful if your worm finds itself in the line of fire. The helicopter is the only vehicle that can move both vertically and horizontally, so you will need all the arrow keys to navigate it around the map. It doesn't have fuel limit, so you can move it around as much as your turn time allows. It cannot hover in the air without you tapping up arrow key, and you'll want to keep the helicopter in this position if you want to shoot an enemy worm with its machine gun. The closer you are to the enemy worm, the more precise the shots will be. However, if you get too close, you risk harming your own worm in the helicopter and ending your turn prematurely. Once your worm is in a position, press the fire button to start shooting, and don't forget that you can move the helicopter in any direction while firing. The mech is an interesting vehicle that offers great mobility. Use the left and right arrow keys to move in the desired direction, and press the jump button to jump or double press it for a double or long jump. This vehicle can glide, and to do so you'll need to jump in a certain direction and press and hold both the direction arrow key and the up arrow key. Vehicles don't take fall damage, so you can cancel gliding whenever you want or start it again by pressing the same buttons if still in the air or after jumping back on the ground. To strike an enemy worm with this vehicle, position yourself next or on top of the worm and press the fire button. The drill boat is the only vehicle that can float on water, and it is the slowest one. Use the left or right arrow key to move it in the desired direction, and press the jump button to perform a jump, or double press it for a double or long jump. As with the tank and mech, hold the direction arrow key while jumping to move forward. The drill boat can dig a long tunnel, and if an enemy worm is in its path, it will be thrown behind the vehicle and suffer 30 points of damage. To start digging, press the fire button and use the up and down arrow keys to change the vehicle's direction. If you want to stop digging, just press the fire button again. The Rocket League car is the most agile vehicle of the bunch. Use the left or right arrow key to move it in the desired direction and press the jump button to jump, or double press it for a double or long jump. Like many other vehicles, press and hold the direction arrow key while jumping to move forward. This is especially important since the Rocket League car can move fast, jump high, and cover vast distances in seconds. To strike an enemy worm, stand next to it and press the fire button to hit and throw it into the air. Mounted turrets are much simpler to use and have a lot in common, including the controls. To enter or exit a turret, press the E key on the keyboard or triangle on the joystick. Use the up and down arrow keys to aim, and press the fire button to start shooting. While shooting with the sniper turret is straightforward, other turrets allow you to adjust your aim with the up and down arrow keys while firing. The flames from the flamethrower are affected by the wind, so pay attention to its direction before using it. The mortar will shoot 3 cluster shells in bursts. Don't forget that you can cancel shooting at any time by pressing the fire button again. If you want to learn different tips and tricks with vehicles and turrets, check out the playlist called Tips, Tricks and Tactics. The link is in the description. As you already know, each game you play can have a completely different landscape that is randomly generated before the match. These landscapes belong to one of the 9 teams within the game and can be customized by players before the match begins. Landscape objects, buildings and vehicles can also be added randomly to the landscapes for even more variety. However, one thing I want to discuss in this chapter is the background of a map. It can be toggled on and off. By default, it is turned on and adds to the visual presentation of the map itself. But some players prefer to turn it off for more clarity on the map itself. Sometimes, after an explosion, small pixels can remain and block the movement of a worm or a weapon, and they can be hard to see. By turning off the background, you should be able to see them more clearly. You can toggle this setting off just to look for the pixels and turn it back on again. The choice is yours. To do this, pause the game, click on the Settings tab, and change the setting of the background from normal to simple. Click on the Apply and return to the game. It is important to note that this setting cannot be changed on the consoles. While we are on the subject of maps, we should quickly pay attention to the dropped crates as well. Once the crate starts falling, it can take a while before it lands onto the map itself. You can always speed up this process by pressing the fire button. Interaction with other players is a crucial aspect of the social experience while playing Worms, and there are 2 ways to do it, through chat and voice chat. Chat is not new to the Worms series, and it has been present for many years. It allows you to exchange messages with your opponents. You can comment on your turns, discuss other events happening during a match, or just insult each other. Whatever the reason, it's good that it's there. Using chat is straightforward. All you have to do is press the page down key on your keyboard to open the chat panel. Write your message and press it again to close it. It is important to note that players on consoles don't have chat as an option, but they do have voice chat, which we will discuss next. Voice chat is another way to communicate with your opponents, and it works similarly to normal chat, but with your voice. This option is available for both PC and console players, but it functions differently on each platform. To use voice chat on a PC, all you need to do is press and hold the star key on your keyboard and start talking. Once you're done talking, release it. It works like a radio. While voice chat is being used, you can see in the upper right corner the name of the player who is speaking. Console players, on the other hand, will need to connect a mic to their controller first. They don't need to press any buttons because the voice chat will activate automatically when they start talking, and will end automatically when they stop. Understanding all these controls will help you master the game faster and gain an advantage over your opponents. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section. Don't forget to suggest topics for new videos and check out the links in the description. Until the next time, Viper out.
It's all for you.